This is day 533 of the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi. If you'd like to sponsor an upcoming share of the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi or more, please contact me directly. Very greatly appreciate it. Seidim Shin Chaf Aleph. Hey through Yud Gimel. Hey. The Rambam Mashkas about the Rambam. The Chacham is Adluim. Pishain China Peros. The Rambam writes they're allowed to cut the gourds because there's no grinding by fruit and vegetables. Well, Yerushalmi says you chayiv if you grind peppers. Pilpulin have a pera, and peppers are a fruit. Kirisa b'vrachos v'altem arla, so as piro. You should hold arla its fruit. Lavi eshatam etzel piro shabbat. It includes a tree which has the same taste in its wood and in its fruit. Vezazeh pilpulin, that's peppers. Ayin sham. Although the truth is, I always understood that there are two types of peppers, and they're therefore different in their qualities. The one which you grind, which you hive, is a black peppercorns, and the one which you would not be chayiv is the kind of green, yellow, and orange, red peppers, which are not ground to be spices. So I think that there's a difference, but the Arukh HaShulchan doesn't see the distinction. It says Levad the law of in. Besides, they don't understand the Kaman Shepasik to be Eric Yeshtrina, since he says that the vegetables there is grinding. Below the peros, lefichach mutar l'chachtok zagluim. And I guess the Rambam, I forgot from yesterday. Rambam says I guess you're not allowed to grind vegetables, only fruit. But he says his point is here that gluim, gourds are vegetables. Mucham says kilaim. V'chem diber Rambam pergum kilaim. Shkasim ha'isa say Israel yerek. Ubikshal is ubikish lo yerek achafil gluim. Says if you plant with vegetables, you want to plant another vegetable, even with gourds. Ayin sham mechrei kenu. Eno lo means full, lo means right. And must be that way because it's not a grain and not a seed. Vad seminai lo shein chiner peros. And besides that, where does it get that there's no grinding by fruit? Vav nirlani is righty kavan acheres. So I think he's saying something else. Tchilo shayach el b'dvarim shedarkon l'chotchon dak nezimin shiyeh. So that pepper, let's see where it's going with this. Something like we said, I think something like I said a few moments ago. Grinding is not relevant unless, except with something which is normally cut very finely, whatever species it comes from. Normally does not cut fruit very finely. And this is also true about gourds. Not just the gourds, and any type of vegetables you don't normally cut very finely, such as ugrekas, which are cucumbers, we don't cut finely, ubarekas for kroit, and beets and cabbage, which are cooked, they are cut very finely. And therefore, and fruit you never cut finely. A korin retich, I think it's a radish. We don't cut very finely. But onions and garlic, they are normally cut very finely. Zayin. Neviradin, we clarify the lacha. The Rashi by Rambam, b'chomine yerek shayach tchina. According to Rashi Rambam, any vegetable is susceptible to grinding. And the Rabbeinu b'yisoyse b'das Rambam, eno kshavotz l'bashlo. However, it's only when he intends to cook it. According to Rosh, there is no grinding by vegetables. With silka, only by silka. Silka, I think is spinach. No, maybe it's another type of beet. Yeah, so it seems that nobody's quite sure what exactly it is. Silka is what we're supposed to use for one of the simonim, the Arukh HaShulchan. I believe in the Siddur, the Minchas Shleim Siddur, it's translated there as mangold or marigold. I think it's mangold. Marigold doesn't seem to be an edible plant. I think it's a mangold. But no, nobody's. I know has ever seen mangold. At least never brought it home. We use in our family spinach for that simon, and in fact, that's one of the translations, which is for silka, which is and online in the Kosros website, Yutzvach von Kashrus. That's one of the accepted translations for silka, which they have as selek, ale mangold, and ale teret. So I don't think, do we chop up spinach very finely? I guess so, of course, because frozen spinach is chopped spinach. It's chopped up finely. Okay, makes sense. So that's he says here. Um, um, yeah, that's again. Silka places the trina. Ein sein min matzui etzleinu. They probably have spinach or mangold in Russia. Abu Rashba Rana Isu Raka Lachas Makli Rashba the Ran provision only where you're going to do it for a later time. Abu Kar Machil, but right before eating, it's Mutzak Moshkasavnu. Upela Rabbeinu says astonishing, but he says Shulchan if you base Shas and Vora Lagarme Lister, he seems to answer altogether blanket prohibition. This is the quote: "Amachate chayer dak dak." Somebody who could chop some vegetable very finely. Chai we should talk in this chai because of grinding. Akal shoro. Zeu the loka rambam loka tesis. Barosh loka rashba loka ran. Elkadas Rashi. It's only going like Rashi. Very bambus. Emi Rashi achlea. And from Rashi there is no definitive conclusion. For Pirish Rak for him, Havi dak dak. He says that the Purim means to chop up finely. Bless you like basis. And maybe he also says it's only by silka. The will have a Rafa Biyada Perusho, but Rambam Kumosh Kasabnu. So therefore, it seems to be it was unclear as to his shot in the Rambam, like he said, so he did not go into any details and just wrote a blanket prohibition on Tochen, and even and that it's all Tochen, and you'll be chayav on account of Tochen. It's not clear where to go there. Ches, Rabbeinu Ramah, Kosav, Ramah writes, Lushono, who Radin the Osloto Grogros Karuvim Lifnei is Kanim. You're not allowed to cut even dry dates and carobs in front of elders, older people. That compares to Chadoim as the Osir. Only fruit and anything similar to Rabbeinu. Amutzal Fire Lechem Netanel, but you can crumb bread in front of hens. The Kvanit since already was ground before it was baked, and the is not a problem. Then there's no grinding after grinding. And all this is only when you're cutting and leaving for later. If you're doing it to eat immediately, everything is okay. Just like with borer to eat immediately is okay. The miyad shari, with that which he says that for me to use, it's okay. Plus a karash by Ran, it's like the Rash and the Ran. Rosh Pshita mutar, and according to Rosh, is definitely mutar chenotaisis, because everything besides silka is okay. But I feel Rashi, the Rama, fi perushen, according to Rashi, the Rama, according to interpretation, the come and rise lo svilek, and we don't know that they don't hold that way, because they only perhaps they don't go to also by silka or only by something which is derech to be teichen. So now comes Lamaisa. That which we have this our mahalach, our custom is Shabbos in the morning. Lachtok dak dak to cut onions very finely and mix them with oil. Or say it's like cholent, or put them into the cholent. And it's there's no prohibition. The Kemo Chosim say Kohen Masula, she's doing immediately before the meal. I feel Shokan Masula, even an hour before the meal, Mikal out it's called for immediate use. Which time a little bit better, like we wrote previously with Simon your test, with basis with the love Ein Sham. Vavkav little bird, little shari beyond. High bow rare is only permitted with the hand. And here we use obviously implements. That's because the melacha breira is with the hand. So the melacha grinding is only with a vessel. When they allowed you to eat it, grind up for immediate use, they also allowed you to use a vessel. That's what you normally do it. Otherwise, you can't grind by hand. Selecting by hand, yes. Grinding my hand doesn't work. Test. Recent fact I saw people who were dubious about this. They don't allow you to use a chopping knife to cut onions. Well, the here I don't stand so. Chopping knife is also a knife. Rib Eisen. He didn't like using a grater to grate cheese. Because that can grind finely like a flour. That could be like a teichen. But the chopping knives are this is a knife which is made as a half circle. It's more of a cleaver than a chopping knife. But it's in any event, it's like a normal knife. Mishnah Berurah, however, does say not to use a hakmeser because it could be a kli miyuchad and uvda dechol. So I guess it's the shape of the hakmeser, which is the specific shape here. It says like half a circle. I'm envisioning something similar to a cleaver. Is the Arukh HaShulchan Mishnah Berurah is machmir. Arukh HaShulchan is not, because he says a knife is a knife. Why would we say that Jewish daughters who prepare this food Shabbos morning are making are in error? Also, somebody wrote if you cut the vegetables 2 or 3 hours before the suda, you're close to being chayav chatos, and that's a chayav adam. Mishnah Berurah says also that like the chayav adam. And he says now you're chayav chatos, could be chayav chatos, but the onions are also bachila. And he also says it's also because of borel, though I'm not sure why. Okay, but in any event, he wants to say that it was done too early, chayav adam, and the Mishnah Berurah that it's chayav chatos. But Arukh HaShulchan says it's miyani. Atu leka rabbi sena matin garme aren't the rabbis among the rabbis who permit this all together. Tesis for us, Ramo Vidas Rabbeinu B'Yisrael. All those. The Rav Lavash also hold it's only specifically to cook, which is forbidden. For the kol shol sim kodim suda, anything which you do before the meal, bishul suda for the meal, mikol altar. It's called for me to use. I'm saying it can't be precise. The kfi mash kasati el sim shinu b'as mikol shol altar. That something which is not altar, only it's being done in the morning for the afternoon. We have avokol shel oisa suda. It's being done for that meal, which is coming up, the next meal, there's no problem. You certainly do it as adjacent to the meal as possible. But when there are many people at the meal, you have to start somewhat earlier to prepare for everybody. Now to cut the dates and carobs in front of elderly people. The Tosefta Isa a Maraskin. Tosefta says you can't chop. Maraskin be actual sacking, but you can pound with the handle of a knife with eitz parurim. It's some sort of other implement for pounding. It's not a problem. By shini allowed to crush things. Like we will see by salt and peppers. But Ben Ramah and the Ramah says to cut. Mishum the Khan Myrina Mechaticha, because you were talking about about chopping, about cutting. So it doesn't mean specifically to cut only. He doesn't cut because chito and risuk are interchangeable concepts. So when it says also lachtoch, the Gogras and Charulin is Kanim, Arukh is clearly saying, it doesn't mean literally cut, it means to grind. It's also to grind. Yeshish Omer, the Dafkus Kanim also. Those say that specifically for elderly it's also. But can eat without the grinding, without the cutting, much is missile. But this is astonishing. The Yesh is a teichen. If the grinding is relevant here, but them some make they eat or can't eat. Can come gabirokos no marking. That's the case. That's also by say something similarly by vegetables, not by the fruit of dates and carrots. Below Shemana Chiluk Zem, a place can be never heard such a chiluk. The ayin was, he brings down here Mishnah Berurah. I think it's time 42 we have Mishnah Berurah. Got Mishnah Berurah Tamar B'zeh. Mishnah Berurah is also standing about this. Vayim Sif Abbas, see the next Seif. Yurav. Amnam I called Tosefta Koshali, but on the Tosefta itself I have it difficult. Rambam because of the ain't clean Paris. Rambam writes there's no grinding by fruit. Then Mishnah Magi Mishnah Skashem and Magi Mishnah found this difficult. Because that Shemot and this Kosh ain't clean Ella Paris. Found the gears the exact opposite. There's no grinding of anything else other than fruit. Achrabena, he says Sibra Kes, the Mishnah Dachal Gears Lubishtei he says it rejects the gears with two hands. They got offer because even by dirt, comes to dirt, and by wood and by metal, there is tchina. Like we saw previously. I'm not too much excited to see Vav as a shepherd. According to that which I wrote in Vav, it works out well. It means that it's not the derech to cut them very finely. If he's a shepherd, so therefore the Tosefta is saying good. That's when it's not the derech. But this kenish and then you have no teeth, and you have to make a puree out of this out of the carrots or the dates. So also it's forbidden. According to this, it comes out like the Yesh Mishomer which he brought down in Sif Yud. The Mishi Kach, anybody who can eat it without grinding it, for him there's no grinding by fruit. The Pashu the Korem Achila Mutal Livnei is Kenik of Yaakos, and it's obvious that before eating, regardless, you're allowed to do it for the elderly, just like that do vegetables. Brackets here, the Tama Tosefta Lumishim Toicher. Say that Tosefta's problem with cutting up the dates and the carrots is not a problem of grinding, but of smoothing. Which because around Ramah so if you test the Mutal Achlika Ocha B'Shabbos, you're allowed to smooth the food on Shabbos. That's not considered to be memachik, like curing the rubbing. Sorry, not curing. Rubbing the hair and stuff off the hide of the animal. Since you can eat without doing this, and you can ask below that also mishumachik. So the elderly, you can't eat it without it being smooth. It's also because of memachik, because it's smoothing. Cholim, mutar, and those who can eat it that way. Okay, so he suggested Tosefta B'Chlal is about memachik, not about tchina. Your base. Kasar Rabbeinu Beis says the same time. Mutar do pilpulin. You can crush peppers. I feel like I could even many together. And that's only if you crush them with the handle of a knife and with a plate. Even though somebody grinds pepper is chayav chatos, we come by doing it in a non-standard way. He's allowed it. But if you do it with a shinoi, it's not called malacha. It's being done in a backhanded way. That's when they permitted. Mishabur says only that which you need on Shabbos. I mean, it sounds a little bit of a kula. Not sure it didn't mean to be more mako. Yeah. But shinoi who, and the shinoi is that he's using because he's using the handle of a knife. For not a millstones, ubakara or plates, or meducha or a pounder, crusher. B'yesh are those who say the dai b'shinoi one shin is enough. Oh, bekata I feel be meducha. Either the handle of a knife, and even if it's a meducha, which I guess is based on this usage, is the mortar and pestle. So even in that convex keli, which is muchas for it. Or b'kara afilu shelo b'kata, or conversely, in a plate without the handle. Not sure we're using them. Rashi Shom avoid social nation. Rashi seems to say need two changes. Because of came to Kamashani Shalom Berechaim Shalom Meducha Kamashon. Make sure that you don't use neither a grindstones or a mortar. Harei Fush Tainabina. It says not or. Well, it says Mishani Shalom Berechaim Vish Shalom Meducha. So it says so clear. It's need two shinui. Can't ikradin, that's the ikra halacha. Lav dafka people, it's not just peppers, do the chomei tavlin, shuba, any other spice. Yizaru shlo suma people in our tavlin tok chaypetz, luchal chaypetz. You should be careful not to put the peppers or something else into an object and pound on the object. Sharei nikla boha reach. Separate those together, because the fragrance adheres to that vessel. Va'ave moilid recha, which is to generate a fragrance of Shabbos, which is no good. Even on Yom it's no good. It's interesting. Mishapura says that this is okay. The Taz reneged on its chumrah here and agreed with Marashal that's missile because you're not mechavim for that fragrance. Okay. Omnam karbiyanim the Shabbos kilim yontif. We already explained Shabbos is more lenient than a yontif in terms of nolak. Much kosav atzur b'sim and tov tzadik hey. But initially, you should definitely forbid it. That's the only time it's in Nola B'Shabbos. Right? There is a prohibition in Nola B'Shabbos because that's the Shom. As a Siman Shin Yudches or Siman Shin Chaf. Yud Gimel. Gam Melech Inkas Sim Melech Madoch. You can pound. What is the word? Disintegrate maybe. But anyway, you can pound salt in a pounder. Afilu shel eitz, even if it's made of wood. Mrasiku biyad shel sakin. You can chop it up, but there's a better word. It's not on top of my tongue. So that would not be a problem. What does Mr. Bruce say here? He says you should do the chopping in a plate or on a table. Also by peppers, the same thing. Okay, back to the Arukh HaShulchan. Kamosh Kasam Sim Kum Tafkiyav. Amnam Fabiano will explain Shabbos can be done with Noad for a posting Tirno b'Shabbos, most posting Mati Noad on Shabbos, plus the Turban Sim Tafs. Okay, come Chila Badi Yesh. So it's preferential basis. You should forbid it. The Dasei Tam Ushayesh Isam Noad b'Shabbos. The Dam Holzer isn't Isam Noad on Shabbos. Much custom of Torah like the two wrote. The answer of Shimon Yud Ches and Simon Shin Chav. Explain this elsewhere. Gimel the Gam B'Melech Ein Cholchim Ein Kosim HaMelech. You can't pound the salt the Madoch Afilu Shleitz with a pestle. Even with made of wood. Avam Rasik Ubiyat. You can crush it out with your hands. Biyad Sakin with hand of a knife with Eitzapora and this I guess this pestle which is made of wood. Benechesh is not a problem. I think I went back a bit because I got the same issue I was up to before. Sorry, I'm going to give it over again. It's specifically coarse salt. So which was originally fine. When these bashon got cooked with acid seed and now became clumps. Mutar Chacham was talking, cut it with a knife, commercial there, bashon, so you cut a little loaf of bread. Then there's no grinding after grinding. Mutar fire passing there, they're going, that's you're allowed to crush a piece of bread in front of the hens. But nevertheless, with the pestle, it should also forbid using that for salt. It's too much like uvda the chol, like your weak activities. Braga says, because we're going to tzukar kenu ayin sham. He says that sugar would have the same halacha as salt in this respect.